Evening, welcome to Minority Caucus. My name is Akbar Ruhullah Khomeini. President Mahama has decided to sell ECG for a paltry $400 million. President Mahama has also agreed to a $150 million investment into the operations of ECG for over a 3-year period from the buyer. At a press conference today, a coalition against the proposed concession of ECG condemned the Mahama government for giving away a strategic national asset valued at $4 billion for $498 million. We'll be looking into the issues raised at the press conference today. Also, IMF has confirmed the claim made by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia that government intend laying off public servants in 2017. The confirmation contained in a report gave details of the 2017 intended rationalization of the public sector. We'll go for a quick break and we'll be right back. You're welcome back. You can join the conversation on our social media platforms on Facebook / Joy News on TV and on WhatsApp 0560-800,000. I've been joined tonight by two prominent activists of the New Patriotic Party. On my immediate left is the Deputy National Youth Organizer of the New Patriotic Party, Salam Mustafa, and on my far right as a member of the National Communications Team of the New Patriotic Party, Richard Nyama. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I'll start with you, Richard. You are the convener of the coalition against the proposed concession of ECG. Today you addressed a news conference in which you made that shocking revelation that the Mahama government has decided to give away ECG. Can you take our viewers through briefly what happened at the conference today?
Thank you very much, Agbar. And good evening to you viewers. I'm still puzzled if the government keeps on this communication line, we are not selling ECG, we are not privatizing it. For a simple understanding of it, if you have a property, let's say a house, worth $4 billion US, I have it. I give it to you for 5 years, for 25 years. And I take a value of 400 million for you to run it for me. What would I have done for the 25 years? It's common sense that I've sold it to you for 25 years. Yes. When you're buying land, the land is supposed to be leased to you for a period of years. But you pay for it. And that is exactly what we're doing here. And then they tell you it's not being privatized. What do we understand by privatization? Currently, the IMF and World Bank, who are basically behind this deal, because we have gone into this IMF package with them, are requiring that government puts its hands off the running of ECG. And the rationale behind it makes sense. If government alone will owe ECG $500 million US, how do you expect ECG to be profitable? There's no company that will be owed $500 million, not Google, not Apple. $500 million of your monies are not being given to you, and you expect that you will still be viable. This is the situation. But Agba, the shocking revelation for me is the fact that ECG currently is being run down by government and government communicators.
How?
To have it collapse more or less artificially and sold for cheap. ECG, per independent international consultants, have valued the company at $4 billion US, as I'm telling you. I doubt there are up to 2-3 companies in this country in that form of value. Okay. ECG on the annual basis rakes in revenue in the region of $1.3 billion US. 1.3 billion US dollars, not cedis.
Oh.
Apart from the Ghana Revenue Authority that brings in loads of money. The next is ECG. From what I have seen, we have been getting oil for how long? 5 years?
Yeah.
Over the 5 years, what have we had? 3.5 billion US dollars. $500 million a year. And we are celebrating and making noise. ECG is giving us almost triple that a year. Nobody is hearing it. And somehow, someone wants to convince me that ECG is not viable, so let's sell it. For me, there is nothing government can say about selling it. You say you are having what kind of contract? Management contract? What kind of a management contract will require you to sell or give out all your movable properties to the incoming company? In actual fact, they have indicated that apart from the training school and the headquarters, which have regional implications and benefits, because it is used to train some of our neighboring countries in the electricity sector and the headquarters. Anything else is up for grabs. This is it. And it is being privatized because it is going to an individual or a company, trust me, worth how much? In the government's own cabinet memo, the company that or individual, and I'm quoting them, and this memo was arrived at on the 11th of February 2016, this year. Okay? Where the IFC, the International Finance Corporation, actually was looking for a company that was worth in the region of 200 million US dollars to take over ECG. 200 million US dollars. That's all you needed. And I'm sure there are a few individuals in Ghana who could have done that.
Oh, yeah.
And, or you would have a company, and this was their evaluation of it. And government in the cabinet therefore decides, okay, let's double it. Then they make it 400 million. Now, you have an asset worth 4 billion. The person coming to take it is worth 400 million. Look at the mismatch. Yeah. What is the person bringing? That is currently not there. We also looking at a situation where the IFC recommended that the value of, let's say, investment of the incoming company in terms of experience in the electricity subsector, okay, should be in the region of 50 million US dollars. No, 100 million US dollars. Then the government sits, and then the 100 million US dollars was supposed to be over 3 years. Then the government in cabinet says, no, we should look for a company that has an investment experience over the last 3 years of at least $100 million in the first year and $150 million over the next 3 years. So if that company came, they were going to be investing on average 50 million US dollars a year. You know what is going to happen?
Into the operations of ECG.
Yes. As you and I speak, just on their network operations, okay, that is expanding their facilities and ensuring efficiency and cutting losses and getting ECG to be effective, they spend on annual basis 100 million US dollars. So you are bringing a company that is underfunded, doesn't have the capacity to even match what ECG is doing now. Now, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, who are a U.S. foreign aid agency, who are actually behind this, have their local counterpart, the Millennium Development Authority, being the implementers of this program. They are then being advised by the International Finance Corporation. Okay. The MCC is going to give us 498 million US dollars. But you see, when it is actually spoken on air, you get the feeling that we're going to get an escrow account where we dump this $498 million and then we can go to the market with it. But you look into the details, in actual fact, this $498 million is to be split over 5 years. So in every year of the 5 years, we're not getting more than $99 million US. And I'm saying that the ECG on its own is already investing over $100 million a year. So what is the purpose of this, whatever you want to call it, concession or sale or retail, or I don't know what language adjective to use for this. But there are question marks about the whole process. And so we will have to ask critical questions. In the first place, what value has our government placed on ECG to let them want to give it away at this value of 400 million? Because for me, if you are a company coming in and you are worth $400 million, okay, you go to the market to go and borrow. They are looking at your value to give you money. Yeah. I don't see a bank giving you 3 times your value if at the end of the day you don't have the capacity to pay back. The ECG we are talking about is giving us $1.3 billion. Today, if we gave it to a foreign company, ECG has no hands in this whole process. Whatever that company collects and declares is what they will collect. Wherever they send that money is their business, after they have paid their taxes to the government. So why are we doing this to ourselves? Who is interested in chopping up ECG and selling it the way they are selling it? So there are question marks. Okay, and I think that it is in the interest of the government to start talking. Because if they don't, Akbar, trust me, next week we will spill a lot of beans. It will be so bad that people would have their heads under their armpits. That is how stinky it's going to be. Because the details are not fine details. You cannot believe that a government will be that callous towards its own people. And we are ready to get a go at it. But we will put a break on it. If the government is reasonable enough and decides that, you know what, there are certain aspects of your argument we agree and understand. And so based on that, we may put a break on this and renegotiate this whole compact. Because for us, we think the compact needs to be renegotiated. As to whether it should go to foreigners or Ghanaians, when we get to that, I will put in more inputs on that.
Okay. Salam, it looks like this deal, like many others we've witnessed under this government in the last 8 years, is riddled with fraud. Because from the explanation of Richard, it defies basic economic logic that you owe a company $500 million as a state, then you decide to sell it out to foreigners for 400 and over that period, we've had enough resources to pay this money to ECG. It looks like the whole deal is fraudulent, and some people intend to benefit from it financially.
Absolutely, Akbar. Good evening to the viewers of this program. It is not just riddled with fraud, but it is the height of insanity. If you look at the details of this transaction, it is absolutely insane. And no sensible person would be going into such an arrangement. In the power industry, we have 3 levels: production, transmission, and distribution. Production is done by VRA, transmission by GRIDCO, distribution by ECG. Now, of the 3 components, they have left the 2. And they have come to hold on to ECG. And they are chopping it into pieces so that when it comes to the bones, they can dispose of it, like they have done to every other single, thing they have come to meet in this country. I say it smacks of insanity because you do not have a company worth 4 billion and you sell it for 400 million. That's absolutely, madness, because that's about 0.5% of the worth of the company. And I don't think any, sane human being, any right-thinking person with the brains working very well would undertake such a venture. Now, if you look at the issues surrounding this whole deal, we have gone to negotiate a deal with the Millennium Challenge Corporation, with the implementing agency of MIDA locally here. And the compact is to give money that relatively would go into power in this country. So one would have thought that indeed, if we were interested in investing into power in this country, any other person, or for that matter group, would be interested in how to produce power and how to effectively distribute it for the people of Ghana. But what we are seeing in this scenario is rather coming to take what is existent and more or less dissipating it. If you look at the whole arrangement, we are giving out ECG on, I don't know actually the intention. Either they are coming to manage ECG for us, or they are coming to buy ECG. But like Richard mentioned, I mean, if you are coming to manage something for 25 years, I mean, basic logic should tell you are selling it for 25 years. 25 years. Because for 25 years, we are not going to have any control over the activities of ECG when a private person comes to take it.
And the revenue will not stay here beyond
absolutely,
their taxes.
Mind you, a private person or company coming to take ECG and run it is first minded by profit. And therefore, all other, essentials that goes into providing energy for our people will be thrown to the dogs. And that the person is absolutely interested in how much profit he can make off the Ghanaian people. And you know what? Our government is very comfortable with it. That's the kind of government we have in Ghana today. Interested in insanity. Interested in something that is coming to burden the Ghanaian people and further wallow us in the cycle of erratic power supply, in this country.
Especially for those of us from the north. The Northern Electricity Department is part of this deal.
It will affect the entire country. No part is going to be left. You see, the biggest buyer of power from the two is ECG. So if a private company comes to take ECG and is making so much profit, you can bet that it is going to buy more and the other side are going to suffer. So it will affect, the north as well, which is under NETCO. You understand, and they would also feel the brand. Now, mind you again, if a private person or company comes to take it, certainly tariffs will go up. And the tariffs will not just be within Accra or Kumasi, that largely is under ECG, but it would also permeate down to the north, which is under NETCO, and will be paying the same tariff, because we cannot be paying one set of tariffs in the south and the north will be paying a different set of tariffs. So it is going to affect everyone across board. And that is the glaring reality of this whole deal. That is more or less a sham. And nobody seems to care in this country. All that government is interested in is pushing away ECG, giving it to Pitans, and they'll go and sit, and probably, for all you know, someone is pushing this for 10%. And the 27 or so million Ghanaians can wallow in suffering. They don't just care. Otherwise, this is a strategic national asset that Ghanaian should have pride in. And we have managed it to this moment and made it a very viable business venture that is worth $4 billion. And all of a sudden, we tell ourselves that we cannot manage it anymore, and that someone should come and take. I mean, I'm struggling to come into to understand the mental thinking into some of these things. I don't know. It looks like the gods are against us.
Richard makes a very important point. ECG on its own averagely invests some $100 million. You say that is not sufficient, and we want to bring in a private person to invest $99 million averagely.
If that were so,
the person is investing 50
I'm coming.
$50
Absolutely.
million.
If that were so, the person was coming to invest more, it will make sense.
Absolutely.
But the person is coming to invest less than what the company is
Half of
originally.
what they-
And I'm saying that this is madness. This is madness. You cannot understand it on any level that you try to turn it upside down this way. You will not understand it. Turn it again, you will not still get it, because all the variables don't make sense. ECG on its own, how much is government owing ECG itself? About $500 million.
million.
And how much are they going to sell it? $400 million. But does it make sense?
It doesn't. The argument is that ECG is not financially sound because of $500 million.
And the biggest indebtor to ECG is the government.
But we have found almost $1 billion to bring in car power.
So, and recently Parliament passed another, energy deal that we are going to put, establish another, I think, almost 900 power plant, almost 900 million, almost $1 billion. And what? We owe ECG just $500 million, and we can't give the money to them for them to stand on their own, for it to remain a national asset. Rather, we want to give it out with all its national security implications. We want to give it out to foreigners to come and mess it and go away and hold it for the next 25 years. Myself and you, all other Ghanaians will be living with the ramifications of it. Government just doesn't care.
Richard, apart from the fact that this deal doesn't make economic sense, it looks like political.
It's not just economic sense, even mental sense.
It's unwise, because
even
for
mental
those
sense, it doesn't make.
who were arguing forcefully in 2008 against the more prudent Vodafone deal, it's no doubt that the Vodafone deal made better economic sense than what we witnessed, and that for such group of persons to turn around to engage in these transactions, really, apart from not making economic sense, doesn't make political sense as well.
The Vodafone deal is, I think probably we didn't communicate well.
Yeah.
If Vodafone had 70% of its shares, sold to Telecom Malaysia for something like $70 million.
One touch, rather. Yeah.
Yes. By
Telecom Malaysia first.
Yeah.
It was Telecom Malaysia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the MPP came, they bought it off Telecom Malaysia. The government of Ghana still has 30% shares
in
Vodafone as we speak. The 70% that was bought back from Telecom Malaysia was then sold off to Vodafone in the region of $700 million US dollars. And we are complaining.
They had issues with that.
We have issues with that.
You
You still have 30%. With this very one, you have nothing in it. And in actual fact, if you look at it, it's just the ECG. The NETCO aspect is not there. And so you're going to have implementation challenges like he's saying. If this new company does its own tariff adjustments, and we'll come to the tariff adjustments because they've already started it. Does tariff adjustments, will it take automatic effect within the NETCO region? Will that be the case? Else, are we going to have a different authority managing and running NETCO? And how are they going to set their tariffs, and how is it going to run? We have all those things not spelled out. But you know what? The funny aspect is this. You have currently under ECG, Ghanaian companies manufacturing and supplying ECG with cables. So that
Richard, quickly, we would have to go for a quick commercial break. When we return, you would continue.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Tonight we're discussing the intended privatization of ECG for some $498 million. And I've been joined tonight by Richard Nyama and Salam Mustafa. Richard, before we went for the commercial break, you were making a point that some Ghanaian companies also supply the ECG.
Yes, you have Ghanaian companies supplying, they actually manufacture cables in Ghana and supply to ECG. So most of their lines, you have the cables being manufactured in here. You have Ghanaian companies now manufacturing meters. So they have established local factories. They obviously will have issues here and there. Who doesn't? When the Chinese started making vehicles, we had issues. Even the Japanese. Today, the president prefers Toyota vehicles. If I remember, even as a child, Japan. It was like today we are saying China. It's over time that the experience and all that, the capacity made their products that efficient. And so there are Ghanaian companies producing meters for ECG. We have Ghanaian companies refurbishing transformers for ECG. So at the end of the day, what it means is that when a new company comes, they are not bound to have them.
Yeah.
You get off with the work. The workers of those companies and their families are going to lose their daily bread. ECG, as it currently stands, has over 7,000 workforce. After 5 years of coming into being of the company, it has no more obligations towards them. Yeah. And so they can be laid off. Yeah. And that is why the ECG workers
especially because they're driven by profit.
Yes, they will have to downsize. It is normal for any company wanting to make money to downsize. And so that would happen. Now, we have social interventions that have been taking place by governments upon governments, from Rawlings through to Kufuor and this government, where we are extending electricity to virtually every part of this country. Subsidized. Okay. I think apart from South Africa, Ghana is the next widest in terms of coverage. 87% or thereabout of the network covers this country. The remaining 23% we intend to extend to them. But obviously, if a private company takes over, you do not expect them to be Father Christmases. They are not going to subsidize the extension of electricity to my poor grandmother in my village. So we will lose out. So those areas that we're looking at, and you look at the amounts that are paid, okay, like it or not, there is some form of discrimination when it comes to the billing system. Even in Accra, if you are in certain parts of Accra, you pay more. It is like that and downgraded, and so you go to the other regions, it will be less than it is in Accra, and within the region, it will also be downgraded to the poorest. So depending on your location, you will pay less. Now, supposing this company comes, they have the profit, they bring in the tariff, they charge it across board. You can't stop them. They are motivated by profit. My poor grandmother would have to switch off her lights and sleep in darkness. And the ramifications are wide, even on the environment. All these things are not being looked at. But the question is, how did the government arrive at all this? Is our parliament aware? And you see, if you read a bit, you realize that somehow our government has a way of pushing through things they want to push through at the blind side of Parliament. And so I would seriously want to hear some answers from our Parliament. If they are aware, they have seen the CRP concerning this sale, and what they think about the government's valuation of ECG. Do they think that is what we are worth as a people? And in any case, is that the only way that we want to raise money? I agree that we should let the government out of ECG because they are the problem. As we speak, ECG collects 95% of all its bills from you and I, from private companies. The government is the one that is not paying.
It's departments.
Departments and agencies.
Every year we give them
pay
money for
50% of their bills. And ECG wants to collect the money, you say no. Now, do you think if a private company comes and takes over, the government has given orders when the ECG workers were going around cutting off hospitals and schools and all that, the government gave an order that it should stop. If I'm a private company, will I say that on humanitarian grounds I'll leave the lights on at Kolebu? They will shut it down.
5 million
and your mother, who is probably undergoing a surgery at that moment, could lose her life. These are the things that you expect a social democratic government to take into account when taking decisions. But I'm sorry, that is not happening. Now, Akbar, we have found some level of corruption, impersonation, and fraud on the part of MIDA and IFC in this whole process. It looks like they are forcing the hand of our government. They are forcing the hand of ECG and all the stakeholders to sell this thing off. You know what? The MIDA and IFC authored a document in the name of Energy Commission of Ghana. And if your cameras can capture this,
capture that.
It says electricity distribution sale license.
Yeah.
And you can see license into brackets new company. And the license number is, it was written.
Oh, Richard, can you show it to our camera?
It was written on the 21st of April 2016.
Okay.
Energy Commission of Ghana. You would expect that this would have been done by the Energy Commission of Ghana for the new company that is coming. This other one, titled Concession for the Management of Operations of an Investment in the Electrical Distribution Business of the Electricity Company of Ghana Limited. Draft tariff methodology for discussion with PURC.
Okay.
This was also written in the name of the PURC.
So the PRC wasn't aware?
They are not aware of this.
Wow.
By who?
But they purportedly authored this.
Yes.
But they are not aware.
They are not aware of this. MIDA and IFC did this. It is criminal.
Absolutely criminal.
If your cameras can capture this, this is PURC's response to this act.
Yeah.
Writing to
hold it slightly for our cameras.
Writing to the IFC and MIDA, telling them that this thing has come to their notice, this document has come to their notice. They are not the authors, they are not aware of it, and under the law of the Republic of Ghana, it is only the PURC that can do what they are doing. And so they should cease henceforth.
So if I get it clear, the PURC has responded to this document.
Yes.
And has denied uttering this document. And has made it clear that under the law, they are entitled to.
And they have brought it to the notice of the government. And yet this is going on.
Wow.
And we are saying that, look, there is worse to come. Okay? Our government is doing this, or if they are not, at least they are standing by, watch this happen. And so what we're saying is this: if our government hasn't got our interest at heart, we're going to do something. If you look into the laws of the United States, they have something they call the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, 1977. And they have the Securities Exchange Act, 1934. Does not allow any American agency or company to be involved in any sort of fraud or corruption overseas. We have so far not seen evidence that the American government is aware of what these guys are doing. And so, if our government will not act, in the coming weeks, we intend to petition the American government through their embassy in Ghana and bring this to their notice and ask these people or these agencies to be dealt with accordingly, because our government is not interested.
Salam.
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Absolutely.
Sincerely speaking, I'm
Absolutely.
shocked
Absolutely.
that government agencies are engaged in
Yeah.
this fraudulent. It's like top there, they're determined to give away ECG, even if it means engaging in fraudulent activities like this.
Yeah, it's so unconscionable.
No wonder
That-
you described it as insane.
Yes,
I wasn't
yes.
privy to this.
Absolutely, of course. Now you understand why I
Wow.
was saying that. I wonder exactly the mental, thinking that has gone into this, because absolutely from left, right, you turn it upside down, turn it however you want to turn it, it will not make
Then
sense to you.
they would manufacture documents just to support.
And these guys are already talking about tariffs. Meanwhile, it is not your business to do so. Tariffs are the absolute preserve of the PURC.
Yeah, it's exclusively
In
committed to
consultation
them.
with the relevant stakeholders. You do not have business to come and be talking about tariffs to us. But they have already forewarned that this is what we are coming for. So for them, the profit is what they're. I don't know why this government refuses to learn. You remember what we did with the water? We ran to, I think, South African company,
Oh, yeah.
Aquaran Vitens.
Aquaran.
Aquaran, and went and brought them. Against every reasonable opposition, they refused and gave it out. At the end of the day, what was the value?
Aquaran Vitens actually was brought in by the NPP.
Yeah,
The NDC,
terminated the.
I remember Alban Bagbin leading the charge against it. And then they terminated it. Okay, and said that we could run it. And so we gave it back to local management, and they are running it. And so why do you think that ECG should be any different? And with this, you can be sure that your tariffs are going to increase. So what you are paying now, be prepared to pay double.
Yeah, we are already suffering from a hemorrhage as far as this, power system is concerned.
It's like we created the conditions for them to take over because
there's-
under the NPP we negotiated the Compact One.
Yeah.
None
But
of
our
these-
Compact One
yeah.
didn't involve
Absolutely,
all
all
these
these
things.
things.
They had this social, democratic, and other requirements.
Yes.
Okay, you have this benchmark of good governance. You have this
Economic growth,
yes,
you know.
human rights. These were the things that they used to give you the concession.
But because we had created Doomsor for so many years, the Americans
They-
thought
they-
that
they-
well,
they
there
have
was
come
an
in to
opportunity.
take advantage of our failure to inflict this pain on us. The lives of about 7,000 people is in doom as far as this pertains, to the extent that once this goes through, these people will be affected.
That brings us to our next issue.
Yes,
The
people
IMF
will
has confirmed.
automatically lose their jobs, and they will come to add to the harrowing, bunch of unemployed people in this country. So the mess is huge. It's plenty, and the government is only interested in adding more, and they keep adding. So I don't know. The workers of ECG, I'm sure, a lot of them are throwing salvos, realizing that danger is coming their way. A lot of them have been up in arms against the attempted, privatization of ECG, and rightly so, because they will lose their jobs and they'll come and add to the teeming, bunch of unemployed that we are seeing in this country. It is a sad reality that we are confronted with, that this is how government is really going to treat us, with absolute disdain, with no respect, and no care. Because if any government cared for its people, they will not tolerate this nonsense on their table. If you bring this, in front of them, they'll throw it out. We will not build a company of 4 billion and you come and put some pittance in front of us, and we would even have the temerity to sit and negotiate with you. That is absolute disrespect to the people of Ghana. And, it's obvious nobody cares for us, and our problems are going to keep deepening as far as this government remains in power. If nothing is done, they will not stop the process. They would continue with it. That is why, as part of our planned actions, apart from going to petition the American, embassy, would also have stakeholders forum. Government should really come and answer some hard questions. The people of Ghana deserve to know exactly what is the truism of the situation. And if they are not stopping, we'll go to court.
That brings us to our next issue, like I indicated. The IMF has finally confirmed that in 2017, public sectors would be laid off.
Yes.
Dr. Bawumia had made that revelation.
Said that about a year ago.
Yeah, and consistently they've denied.
Yeah, they insulted him. They called him all sort of unprintable names. Today, the reality, has caught up with us. It is quite obvious that from the word go, when they went to negotiate with the IMF for, I don't know, the NDC, they enjoy to play with words when they're on the wrong side. Look for policy credibility. Yeah. When you are going to look for a bailout, you come and lie to the people. They are looking for policy credibility.
They initially said that
as to what that means, only the NDC can actually determine. But in actual sense, they went in for a bailout. And the IMF has squeezed them so hard, squeezed their balls so hard, and told them that you would need to downsize your civil service. And that is exactly what is going to happen. A lot of people will lose their jobs 2017 going. So if you are in the civil service and you go and vote for the NDC, I can bet you 2017 you go home and sit down.
Richard, the refrain has always been that there's no intention to lay off public workers. Dr. Bawumia summed it up, that the strategy is that vote for me and I'll fire you. Yeah. And government responded by saying that no, we're not going to fire, we're going to rationalize. But the reality out today in the IMF authored about 87-page document in which they gave details of how the alleged rationalization would be done in 2017. Ultimately, people are going to lose jobs in order to achieve what the IMF called efficiency in public sector management.
Yeah.
You see, Akbar, it's unfortunate as a people we don't read much. Because if we did, it's always been the history of the NDC as a government. Our encounter with the IMF and World Bank was at its crescendo under the PNDC government. Okay? And under that, we had structural adjustment, we have economic recovery programs. And I remember when these layoffs were going to take place. The word that was being used then was redeployment. I'm telling you. In the 80s and 90s, the government's explanation was that they were not going to dismiss people, they were going to redeploy. To where? That they would tell you. Now, the same thing is come back some 20, 30 years down the line, and the word they are using is what? Rationalization. Rationalization. So they will find a very nice English word, okay, and use it to confuse the whole issue. When in fine print, it actually means dismissal. You are losing your job. You see, but I don't think the NDC as a government is deceiving anybody doing that, because apparently those who are going to be affected directly are people who are very legible. They understand and they can read and write. That is the fortunate aspect. And like Salam said, if you think that you want to go home on premature retirement, then you can go ahead and vote for them. But it is clear.
There will be massive layoffs.
The propaganda. You see, this whole issue about when this subsidy matter came, the confusion that surrounded it. You had the ministry saying that it's a subsidy. Then later on, the president comes and tells us that what? It is realignment. It is when the government is caught in the fix, they have a way of introducing words to confuse the issues. Unfortunately for them, Dr. Bawumia, like he told them rightly, they don't read. They don't read. The NDC, whether they are ministers or they are whoever, they don't read. It is on hearsay that the government operates. And so when you have someone reading and telling them the fine details, they have problems with you. And that is where we are here. When he said it, if they had the interest of Ghanaians and the workers at heart, they could have said, okay, please let us acquaint ourselves with the details, and then we'll get back to you. Look at this Supreme Court ruling that came and the bastardization that took place. We started running the people to town, even when the reading of the issue, the ruling was going on in the Supreme Court, without having the details of it. The details come out, and it's a sharp contrast of all that people are doing. But they will not, out of embarrassment, change their position. And that is where we are. And I wish that the workers of Ghana will be bold enough to confront the president and his government with this document that, look, this is what the IMF is saying. What are you saying about it? What are you going to do about it? You and the IMF have obviously gone into an arrangement. Yours is that you are rationalizing. The one that is in charge of the program is saying that we are going to be dismissed. Please do something about it. And in this direction, I wish the PUR and the TUC will take up the matter and sit with government and really get to the bottom of this.
Let me pick some few text messages from our viewers. This one from Nana in Takrady, and he writes, this ECG issue should be properly addressed. I am 34 years old. It means this private company would profit as its main motivation will be pricing and distributing electricity till like 1059.
Absolutely.
How callous can this government be?
Absolutely.
And this one from Francis Pandu, and he writes, I am much convinced that Nana Akufo-Addo is the only man to take Ghanaians away from economic slavery, corruption, and incompetence. Have I just watched documents designed by this private company to infringe wound on already bleeding sore? Ghanaians are in doom. Let's vote Mahama out now. We're running out of time. Salam, I'm going to chip in the intended Dimia demonstration that would be staged in the northern region against tariff increment, general economic hardships.
Yeah.
The president is from the north. The feeling is that he's doing very well in the northern region, but up north,
that's a big lie.
We're the biggest sufferers as far as. Fortunately, the three of us are all from the northern region.
Yeah.
And so, what is it about on 22nd August?
Dimia simply means that we are suffering, right? And we are
I think we can conclude that in Dagbani. Richard speaks Dagbani.
Yes.
So you can explain that in Dagbani.
Yan pula Dagbangza. Intiha tempa, station ma tizami kamang Dimia. Dimima ka, te problem nyele Dimima. De zoka te bona ti hinati nang ayero. Di encheka government bangni bandan da ben shama te borle. Mi sim shale ben chekar kanat system mane te borle. Mi sim shaden chotma te borle.
Richard,
to manguna abje tamare so ka wum de te ka wum demonstration wa yetta ka bijina ka bizan company ma zante silminga ko kana anti ya an to zuwa and your 10 series ayan yola 20 series ni ka ti yan na de miya because you've been forewarned. Zo tin yer na de mitima tin fon ka biyan ko halizan to show kan kana anta zan company man nan umbor sham. And so naturally as dinya store ka amala be amala manika ka to yorle beto kwale
apan yopam
to
so comes that na August. See you next week for yet another interesting edition of Minority Caucus. Good night.